Osio, Halito, or Halato, however you choose to pronounce it, or whatever the greeting is in your culture. You know, hola, what's up, however you choose to greet. Okay, this video will be some more debunking the myths of the 5 civilized tribes. You're going to see me looking down a lot because I'm going to be reading some things, and I'll post the link to the references. This is coming from the 59th Congress, Session 1, Chapter 1876. This is dealing with the year of 1906. And I believe that was Roosevelt who was the president at the time. Yeah. I believe he was the president. Let me make sure real quick. I wasn't alive in 1906, so I don't know offhand. Yep, Theodore Roosevelt was the president at the time. But this will be applicable to any president that comes along the way after him. But this is during the time of Theodore Roosevelt. Okay. Let me go ahead and read this act here. Section 6, it says this. Let me make it a little bit bigger so it's easier for me to read. That if the principal chief of the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, or Seminole tribe, or the governor of the Chickasaw tribe, so I guess the Chickasaw didn't have a chief, according to them, they had a governor, okay? So, or the governor of the Chickasaw tribe shall refuse or neglect to perform the duties devolving upon him, he may be removed from office by the President of the United States. Or if any such executive become permanently disabled, the office may be declared vacant by the President of the United States, who may fill any vacancy arising from removal, disability, or death of the incumbent, I know y'all heard that term when you're dealing with these political people, they use the term incumbent, by an appointment of a citizen by blood of that tribe. Okay, let's take a moment here. So we have the 5 civilized tribes, right? The ones that purported to be the ones, right? The gatekeepers. We have the chiefs being fully controlled by the president. I mean, this is congressional records here. And it says if they neglect to perform the duties devolving upon them. Now, the question is, who tell them what duties they need to do? Right? Apparently, it's the U.S. because the President of the United States can remove them. Okay? Also, according to this congressional records, the office may be declared vacant by the President of the United States, who may fill any vacancy arising from removal. So not only do the president can remove the chiefs of the 5 recognized tribes, but the president can fill the vacant offices. So who's really the chief of the 5 recognized tribes? That'd be the President of the United States on the continent of America. Is this making sense? That's why you don't really see these chiefs speaking about injustices that's happening to the stolen generations, the ones that was renamed and reclassified. They, mum's the word. They can't say anything. They will be removed. Okay? Congressional records. Now let me continue reading. If any such executive, again, executive. Now this is very important to note that federally recognized means you are a political and legal Indian. Political, legal. You get terms placed on you such as executive, incumbent, as we just heard in this congressional record. Okay. If any such executive shall fail, refuse, or neglect for 30 days after notice that any instrument is ready for his signature. Now we're talking about the chiefs that have now been defined as executives in these 5 recognized tribes. Now, if any such executive shall fail, refuse, or neglect for 30 days. Okay, now the 30 days is a 30-day rule that's used essentially in commerce. Check your bills. When somebody say that you owe them something, they give you 30 days to respond or it becomes true. Okay, that's why the 30 days is important. After notice that any instrument is ready for a signature to appear at a place to be designated, okay, at a place to be designated by the Secretary of the Interior and execute the same, such instrument may be approved by the Secretary of Interior. So wait a minute. We have documents that a tribal chief is supposed to sign, but if the tribal chief does not sign it, the Secretary of Interior can sign it. Okay. All right. Without such execution, and when so approved and recorded, shall convey legal title, and such approval shall be conclusive evidence that such executive or chief is synonymous, executive chief, executive chief. It means the same thing in the world of federal recognition. Refuse or neglect it after notice to execute such instrument. Okay? Now, it goes on to say a lot of things about the Seminole Nation, but I'm going to get down to the really, really interesting points. So bear with me as I go down. Because the next passage is talking about the allotments of lands and stuff. Okay. I want to get to the part about the school. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So that was section 6 that I read last. So I'm now into section 10. Alrighty, it's getting juicy. Okay, section 10. Tribal schools transferred to control of Secretary of Interior. Let's say that again. Tribal schools transferred to control of Secretary of Interior. Again, these are the 5 civilized tribes. They're the topic here. This is not talking about the other tribes. This is specifically the 5 civilized, as in taking on the white man ways and, you know, letting them run the stuff, tribes. Okay. That the Secretary of the Interior is hereby authorized and directed to assume control and direction of the schools in the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes, with the lands and all school property pertaining thereto. March 5th, 1906. Oh, that was a busy year. And to conduct such schools under rules and regulations to be prescribed by him. Okay. Retaining tribal educational officers. Oh, we'll keep the tribal educational officers, but they're not in control of the curriculum. Subject to dismissal, oh yeah, and we can fire them, by the Secretary of the Interior. And the present system so far as practicable until, okay, let's back it up, until such time as a public school system shall have been established under territorial or state government. Okay. Public school system. You wonder why so many indigenous children are in public school systems. And proper provision made thereunder for the education of the Indian children of said tribes. And he is hereby authorized and directed to set aside a sufficient amount of any funds invested or otherwise in the treasury of the United States belonging to said tribes. Okay, wait. Money belonging to the tribes is now in the treasury of the United States. That's just like money belonging to me would be sitting in your bank account with your control. Including the royalties on coal and asphalt in the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations, to defray all the necessary expenses of said schools. Okay, so wait. We're going to come in, we're going to take over your schools and imply our system. And guess what? We're going to make you pay for it all. Using, however, only such portion of said funds of each tribe as may be requisite for the schools of that tribe, not exceeding in any one year for the respective tribes the amount expended for the scholastic year ending June 13th, 1905. And he is further authorized and directed to use the remainder, if any of the funds appropriated by the Act of Congress approved March 3rd, 1905, for the maintenance, strengthening, and enlarging of the tribal schools, okay, that we now know as public schools, of the Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Seminole Nations, unexpended March 4th, 1906, including such fees as has accrued or may hereafter accrue under the Act of Congress approved February 19, 1903. Statutes at Large, Volume 32, page 841, which fees are hereby appropriated in continuing such schools as may have been established and in establishing such new, give me a second, schools as he may direct, Secretary of Interior, and any of the tribal funds to so set aside remaining unexpended when a public school system under a future state or territorial government has been established. Public school system shall be distributed per capita among the citizens of the nations in the same manner as other funds. I need to take a drink, y'all. Okay. Now we're into section 11. Excuse the snorting, my sinuses. Okay, section 11. So far, first section was section 6. Second thing I read was section 10, and now we're on section 11. That all revenues of whatever character accruing to the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes, whether before or after dissolution of the tribal governments. Okay, let's pause there. Let's go and see what dissolution means. You can pause too. Pause the video and go look up what dissolution means. Because you have to know the meanings of these words so that you know exactly what is being said to you. Dissolution. The closing down or dismissal of an assembly, partnership, or official body. Okay? Synonymous with cessation, conclusion, end, ending, termination. Okay. So now that we understand what that means, let's go back. Okay. So let's read it with the definition inserted. That all revenues of whatever character accruing to the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes, whether before or after termination, they use dissolution, but it means termination of the tribal governments. Let that soak in. Termination of the tribal governments of all 5 of the civilized tribes. Terminated. Out of there. To include the removal of the old chiefs and the appointment of the new chiefs that ain't got nothing to do with the people there. Okay. Here we go. Whether before or after termination of the tribal government shall, after the approval hereof, be collected by any officer appointed by the Secretary of the Interior under rules and regulations to prescribe by him, and he shall cause to be paid all lawful claims against said tribes, which may have been contracted after July 1st. Contracted. Talking about commerce here, y'all. 1902. Or for which warrants have been regularly issued. Warrants can also be, checks when you're talking about commerce. Such payments to be made from any funds in the United States Treasury belonging to said tribes. All such claims arising before dissolution, termination, of the tribal governments shall be presented to the Secretary of the Interior within 6 months after such dissolution, i.e., termination. And he shall make all rules and regulations necessary to carry this provision into effect, and shall pay all expense incident to the investigation of the validity of such claims or indebtedness out of the tribal funds. Provided that all taxes accruing under tribal laws or regulations of the Secretary of the Interior shall be abolished from and after December the 31st, 1905. But this provision shall not prevent the collection after that date, nor after dissolution, termination of the tribal government, of all such taxes due up to and including December 31st, 1905, and all such taxes levied and collected after the 31st day of December 1905 shall be refunded. Okay, it's important to note that the Constitution specifically has stated that Indians, now this would be the ones that are not federally recognized, are not to be enumerated, as in not to be counted. You're not counted, you're not taxed. Indians not taxed. Which is different from federally recognized, as we can clearly see. That's legal, that's political. You are not, your government has been terminated. So yeah, you are now a corporation, you get taxed. All right. Now we're still into section 11. Okay. Upon dissolution, which is termination, of the tribal governments, every officer, member, or representative of said tribes, respectively, having in his possession, custody, or control any money or other property of any tribe shall make full and true account and report thereof to the Secretary of the Interior, and shall pay all money of the tribe in his possession, custody, or control, and shall deliver all other tribal property so held by him to the Secretary of the Interior. And if any person shall willfully and fraudulently fail to account for all such money and property so held by him, or to pay and deliver the same as herein provided, for 60 days from dissolution, termination of the tribal government, he shall be deemed guilty of embezzlement. Let's let that soak in for a minute. Your tribe has been terminated. Now the people who work for you got to report all the money and turn all the money over. Okay? And if they don't, because maybe they're thinking about future generations and things of that sort, and didn't necessarily like the decisions that was made by these chiefs, they're going to be guilty of embezzlement and conviction of holding on to their own money. Okay. Sounds like a corporate takeover to me. Sounds exactly like what they do when they do a corporate takeover in these corporations, these jobs. You know, they go in and buy over another company, and they say, we need all of your records. You report everything to us. Everything now belongs to us. Sounds exactly like that. Okay. Guilty of embezzlement, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by a fine of not exceeding $5,000, or by imprisonment not exceeding 5 years, or by both such fine and imprisonment, according to the laws of the United States relating to such offense, and shall be liable in civil proceedings to be prosecuted in behalf of and in the name of the tribe for the amount or value of the money or property so withheld. That's a lot, y'all. Are we starting to destroy the myths of the 5 civilized tribes? So the 5 civilized tribes, government, has been terminated. 1906. Where are we? Supposedly we're in the alleged year 2018 on the Gregorian calendar, right? 2018. So their government was terminated. Another word for that is dissolution. In 1906. Terminated in 1906. The school systems that was teaching the indigenous ways was taken control of. And a public school system was put into place. Yet, guess which tribes get paraded in front of us? The 5 civilized tribes. And you wonder why they don't act like they your family, right? You wonder why they got a blood quantum rule, right? You wonder why they chiefs got 1/524% of indigenous blood, right? Well, is it starting to make sense now? Now, let me go down to section 12. Oh, and by the way, I will post the link with the video so that you could read this yourself. And read it to your families. Get them babies, gather them babies around you. Read it to them too. So section 12, that the Secretary of the Interior is authorized to sell upon such terms and under such rules and regulations as he may prescribe all lots in towns in the Choctaw and Chickasaw nations reserved from appraisement and sale for use in connection with the operation of coal and asphalt mining leases, or for the occupancy of miners actually engaged in working for leases operating coal and asphalt mines. The proceeds arising from such sale to be deposited in the Treasury of the United States, as are other funds of said tribes. Okay. Choctaw and Chickasaw areas sold the lots in the towns for coal and asphalt mining. Okay. That's a lot to take in, y'all. It's a lot to take in. 5 civilized tribes don't look so good no more, do they? Let me see here. Okay, section 14. Conveyance to owner of lands reserved from allotment on sale. That the lands in the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole nations reserved from allotment or sale under any act of Congress for the use or benefit of any person, corporation, or organization shall be conveyed to the person, corporation, or organization entitled thereto, provided that if any tract or parcel thus reserved shall before conveyance therefore be abandoned for the use for which it was reserved by the party in whose interest the reservation was made, such tract or parcel shall revert to the tribe and be disposed of as other surplus lands thereof. Provided further that of the right of any railroad or railway company therein, in the nature of an easement for right-of-way, depots, station grounds, water stations, stockyards, or other uses connected with the maintenance and operation of such company's railroad, title to which tracts may be acquired by the railroad or a railway company under rules and regulations to be prescribed by the Secretary of the Interior, at evaluation to be determined by him. That Secretary of Interior, I tell you what, he got a lot of power with them 5 civilized tribes. But if any such company shall fail to make payment within the time prescribed by the regulations, or shall cease to use such land for the purpose for which it was reserved, title thereto shall thereupon vest in the owner of the legal subdivision of which the land so abandoned is a part, except lands within a municipality, the title to which upon abandonment shall vest in such municipality. The principal chief of the Choctaw Nation and the governor of the Chickasaw Nation are, with the approval, let's back that up. The principal chief of the Choctaw Nation and the governor of the Chickasaw Nation are, with the approval of the Secretary of the Interior, hereby authorized and directed to issue patents to the Merle Indian Orphans Home, a corporation of Ataka Indian Territory, in all cases where tracts have been allotted under the direction of the donate the tract so allotted to said Merle Indian Orphans Home. In all cases where enrolled citizens of either the Choctaw or Chickasaw tribe have taken their homestead and surplus allotment and have remaining over an unallotted right to less than $10 on the basis conveyed by the owners thereof to the Merle Indian Orphans Home aggregate to as much as 10 acres of average allottable land, land to represent the same shall be allotted to the said Merle Indian Orphans Home, and certificate and patent shall issue therefore to said Merle Indian Orphans Home. I would suggest researching that orphan home a little bit more. You might find some interesting things. Okay, so I am looking down to other sections. Okay, so we're now into section 15. And remember, I'll post these links. The Secretary of the Interior shall take possession of all buildings now or heretofore used for governmental, school, and other tribal purposes, together with the furniture. Hold up, they taking everything, yeah? The furniture too. Okay. With the furniture therein and the land appertaining thereto, and appraise and sell the same at such time and under such rules and regulations as he may prescribe, the Secretary of Interior. And deposit the proceeds, less expensive incident to the appraisement and sale, in the Treasury of the United States to the credit of the respective tribes, provided that in the event said lands are embraced within the geographical limits of a state or territory of the United States, such, did I say snake shall? I meant states. Such state or territory or any country or municipality therein shall be allowed 1 year from date of establishment of said state or territory within which to purchase any such lands and improvements within their respective limits at not less than the appraised value. Conveyance of lands disposed of under this section shall be executed, recorded, and delivered in like manner and with like effect as herein provided for other conveyance. Okay. Section 16. I'm only going to read a little bit of this. That when allotments as provided by this or other acts of Congress have been made to all members and freedmen of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole tribes, the residue of lands in each of said nations not reserved or otherwise disposed of shall be sold by the Secretary of the Interior under rules and regulations to be prescribed by him. He can make up the rules and the regulations. And the proceeds of such sales deposited in the United States Treasury to the credit of the respective tribes. It goes in to say a lot of other stuff, but you get the gist of who's in control here. So, in the other section so far, talking about land. Okay, section 19. Alienation restrictions extended. That no full-blood Indian of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, Creek, or Seminole tribes shall have power to alienate, sell, dispose of, or encumber in any manner any of the lands allotted to him for a period of 25 years from and after the passage and approval of this act, unless such restriction shall prior to the expiration of said period be removed by act of Congress. Okay, goes on to say a whole bunch of other stuff, but as you can see, they really controlling some stuff with the 5 civilized tribes. I'm reading some more to get to the right section. Oh yeah, this is a good one right here. Section 21. that if any allottee of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, or Seminole tribes die intestate, that's without a will, and without widow, heir or heirs, or surviving spouse, seized of all or any portion of his allotment prior to the final distribution of the tribal property, and such fact shall be known by the Secretary of the Interior, the lands allotted to him shall revert to the tribe and be disposed of as herein provided for surplus lands. But if the death of such allottee be not known by the Secretary of the Interior before final distribution of the tribal property, the land shall escheat to, when you want escheat, you need to look up that definition. That's like real estate law. To invest in such state or territory as may be formed to include said lands. So basically, your ancestors' land, right, will be allotted to the state to increase their territory. If you don't have a formal document showing that, you know, it's your land. That heirs of deceased Mississippi Choctaws who died before making proof of removal to and settlement into the Choctaw country and within the period prescribed by law for making such proof may within 60 days from the passage of this act appear before the commissioner to the 5 civilized tribes and make such proof as would be required if made by such deceased Mississippi Choctaw. And the decision of the commissioner to the 5 civilized tribes shall be final therein, and no appeal therefrom shall be allotted. Well, we know who runs the 5 civilized tribes now, right? Go into more. It goes into some more stuff about the power companies and the road whiffs and all of that. You'll see it when you click it on. I just want to get to the summation. Let's see. Okay, so section 21. Section 27. That the lands belonging to the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, or Seminole tribes upon the dissolution, termination, again, making it very clear that they've been terminated in 1906. That the lands belonging to the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek, or Seminole tribes upon the dissolution of said tribes shall not become public lands nor property of the United States, but shall be held in trust by the United States for the use and benefit of the Indians respectively, comprising each of said tribes. Now, that's why you have this whole land trust situation when it comes to the 5 civilized, right? They came in, they destroyed the entire government, they replaced the government, okay? They created reservations, right? Because again, they're destroying the whole entire government. Dissolving it, dissolution. And then it says, but shall be held in trust by the United States for the use of and benefit of the Indians respectively, comprising